Hello everyone, are you ready to burn some rubber? Because we certainly are. Only 2 more race weekends in the DTM season 2024 and we are here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria and we're excited to be here. It's a very challenging racetrack, but the man who aced the qualifying is Arjun Maini. Congratulations, what a fantastic qualifying. We've got 10 curves, it's a long track, it's also very, very tricky and now it's drizzling. So it's the first time in the history that we have an Indian driver in pole position, so are you going to make it a win?
I mean, of course, that's the goal. I would have preferred if the weather stayed like in qualifying, but of course, that's not the case. So we have to make the most of it now. I think my engineer is already stressing about the tire decision. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
I think everyone's stressing about that. And you personally, you enjoy the heat more than the cold, right?
For sure. For sure. I'm really struggling.
Right. Well, best of luck for the race. Thank you very much, Arjun. And now we're going to go over to P4 because that is where Mirko Bortolotti is. He's actually 7 points behind Kelvin van der Linde in the DTM Championship. So he's going to be pushing really hard. He's probably going to be happy that Kelvin van der Linde is way in the back because I guess his main goal is to actually keep in front and hopefully extend the points. That is surely his... Hello there, how are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
Getting to stutter when I see you. Mirko, it's good to have you here, starting in P4. I was just saying 7 points behind Kelvin. It's all about the championship at this point, so I guess you're glad that he's all the way in the back. And what are you going to make out of the race?
Yeah, it's not only about him. It's all about all the others as well, especially as well Maro right next to me. They look really strong as well. It's wide open, you know. The weather is changing every minute. We don't really know which tires to start. We don't really know if it's gonna rain more, if it's gonna stop. So it's gonna be, yeah, a bit of a exciting race, I guess. So let's hope we can take right decisions and be right there when it matters at the end.
All right, best of luck for the race. Thank you so much. And now we're going to find Maro Engel, who is starting in P3. And for him, he was on the podium 6 times, but hasn't got a win this year. So let's see. He's smiling. That's always good. He looks like he's in good spirits because obviously coming from this position, anything is possible. So hopefully you're going to get your victory today.
I hope so. I think we have a long race ahead of us. Obviously difficult conditions, but it's a good starting position and we feel good.
All right, we feel good. Best of luck for the race. Thank you so much, Maro. And now to the commentators.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, the weather may play its part. We started the weekend with a very wet free practice 1 session yesterday morning. Then it dried up, was greasy, dried by the end of free practice 2. And then this morning we had a damp start, a drying track. That always gives sensational qualifying sessions. And it meant almost the last driver across the line got pole position. That was Arjun Maini, last but one to cross the line. The driver you're looking at in the middle of the picture there, Sheldon van der Linde, was the last to cross the line, but he couldn't really improve and has also got a 5-place grid penalty. So Sheldon qualified 15th, but the 2022 champion will start dead last on the grid with his brother Kelvin van der Linde only just a few places ahead, starting in 17th place, the championship leader. Spoke to him on the way out to the commentary box. He just couldn't switch the tyres on. It was a lottery out there, and he said, we really need it to rain because the Audi is going to struggle in the dry conditions. We've got a low grid anyway, and this car, the normally aspirated engine, doesn't breathe that well, doesn't work that well on this highly elevated circuit, which is 670 metres at the circuit itself above sea level. So the championship leader with work to do, and with Mirko Bortolotti, his closest rival in the championship, only 7 points behind and qualifying 4th. He's been the best qualifier on average this year. That's where he's averaged on the grid, 4th place. And Maro Engel, who took a point for qualifying in 3rd place, only 14 points behind now, the championship leader. And he has been bagging the podiums very consistently. Maro has got 4 podiums out of the last 5 races. So very topsy-turvy looking grid. You've got the other BMWs and Marco Wittmann and Rennie Rast down there. The BMWs have raced well this year, but just haven't qualified well. All 3 of the BMW drivers at Schubert Motorsport have averaged being either 11th or lower in qualifying. Thomas Preining, who was a race winner here, reigning champion in the Porsche. He won here 2 years ago. He was on the podium last year. He's almost at the back of the grid as well. Jack Aitken is another quick driver, the most winning driver this year, that finds himself near the back of the grid. So a very interesting race in prospect as we head back to Verena on the grid.
And I'm here with the championship leader, who's Calvin van der Linde, who seems pretty relaxed. He's still taking a picture with the fan and the grid girl. You don't look all that relaxed, but you're trying to bring a smile across your face. I mean, you're 7 points ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, but unfortunately you haven't got a good position. You're way back. So how tough is this race going to be for you?
It's going to be tough, but I think everyone's starting on wet tires, so I think that probably helps us a bit. In the dry, we really struggled a lot yesterday and also this morning. So yeah, I'm hoping that if it stays wet, that we can kind of fight to the front, but it'll be a chaotic race once again.
And especially in this position when you're in the middle of the field and then it's such a challenging racetrack, that doesn't help, does it?
No, it doesn't, but I mean, we have a good team around us, and you know, luckily I have a couple of mates in the field. Maybe they don't race us too hard today, so let's see.
And you're fighters, so best of luck for the race, Calvin. Thank you. And now we're going to go over here to Thomas Preining, because Thomas this is pretty interesting because he's got a helmet. Well, he's going around the car, sorry, trying to chase him down. Hey there, Thomas, how are you doing?
Been better. I'm confident for the race though. I really like the wet. I really love this track. I'm having a great time in general at my home race. I have so much support. My whole family is here. My friends are here. So many fans, and it's really special.
So hopefully that's going to give you wings coming from the way in the back. And now we have to talk about your helmet, because I think it's a fantastic charity thing that you are doing, because these are pictures actually from children and you're supporting them, because maybe just tell us about this charity work you're doing.
Yeah, honestly, it's really cool. I got to know, actually at the Christmas market in my hometown last year, I got to know some great women from this foundation, the Upper Austrian Cancer Aid for Children, and they're doing great things. They needed a new car for the transport, and we're getting it for them this weekend, hopefully. We're obviously relying on donations. We have most of it covered with big partners. Nevertheless, we also hope to include some of the fans. There's a link on my Instagram, and the team is supporting it and the championship, so it's really cool.
It's really fantastic also that motor racing can do good, right? I mean, the combination there is fantastic.
Definitely. I hope to inspire some other drivers to use this platform for a good cause. It's obviously great for networking and partnerships too, but using it for something else one time or the other is definitely not bad.
Absolutely, it's a very special helmet, and hopefully it's going to be a very special race for you. As you said, I mean, it's your home race, you're the reigning champion, even though it's going to be pretty tough. But what do you love about the Red Bull Ring?
What do I not love? It's great food, it's great weather, as you can see. No, it's fantastic. I mean, obviously for me it's emotionally special because it's my home race. We don't get many of those as Austrians. And it's a cool track, always full of action. The weather at the end of September is usually like this. So the races are exciting, you can overtake well, so nothing to complain.
But then I looked at the radar and it kind of said that it's supposed to be raining already. It's not, but you guys are all, I guess, expecting a wet race, right?
Well, I think nobody knows really. I think it depends who you ask. I think at the start, most people will go with the wets, and then we will see.
We will see. All right. Well, Thomas, best of luck for the race and fantastic with the charity. Good luck for that. I hope a lot of money, you can collect a lot of money there. It's a great thing. He's supporting that. And now, yeah, we're ready for this race here at the Red Bull Ring. Let's do it. Hold on tight and hear your commentators. Enjoy.
Top work. Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Right, a topsy-turvy grid. You heard from Calvin van der Linde, the championship leader, the driver fourth in the championship, Jack Aitken, and the driver you've just heard from, fifth in the championship, Thomas Preining, all find themselves towards the back of the grid. It's Calvin van der Linde's worst qualifying since Hockenheim at the end of 2022. And it's Thomas Preining's worst qualifying. He was 19th in qualifying this morning. He's been bumped up to 18th after a penalty for Sheldon van der Linde. But Thomas Preining with his worst qualifying since his very first weekend in the DTM at the start of the 2022 season at Portimao in Portugal. But feeling confident that the rain might mix it up a bit. That little shower we had around about 45 minutes, an hour ago, has just made the track greasy and damp. And some of them will be looking forward to trying to turn things around in the race. Those at the front will be slightly nervous that things could go badly wrong against them. I spoke to Arjun Maini on the way out to the commentary box, and he said, typical, isn't it? It's the one time I didn't want it to rain when I'm on pole position. But he's done a great job making history as the first ever Indian driver on pole position. He will lead them round. 4 races to go in DTM 2024. Welcome then, everybody, to the Red Bull Ring. 4 races to go and 3 qualifying sessions to go in DTM 2024. We've got 109 points available still, and we've got 7 points separating the top 2 in the championship, and only 14 points between the top 3 in the standings. But with Kelvin van der Linde near the back of the grid, the championship leader, and his 2 closest rivals starting on the 2nd row of the grid, Mirko Bortolotti and Maro Engel. Let's take a look then at the Red Bull Ring. It's 4.3 kilometres long, some very high-speed sections in the first sector, a big steep uphill climb to turn 3, and then lots of downhill runs through the middle of the lap. Famously, in 2015, we had the push to pass here, and Timo Scheider went into the back of Robert Wickens after seemingly being told to do so by the Audi team boss. That snookered him into the back of Pascal Wehrlein in an attempt to stop the Mercedes driver winning the championship in aid of Jamie Green, who ended up finishing 2nd in the championship. Pascal went on to become the champion nonetheless, the youngest ever DTM champion back in 2015 at the age of just 20 years of age and 22 days. And then, of course, going on after that to race in Formula One. So we're here at the Red Bull Ring. A big crowd gathered. This is the penultimate weekend of the season, and it is going to be round number 13 of the championship coming up with Arjun Maini and Max Powell, an unlikely pairing on the front row of the grid after a damp qualifying session on a drying track this morning. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm up here in the commentary box overlooking what was a fairly chaotic grid as lots of different tyres were wheeled there. We've got to wait to see who's starting on wets and if anyone's starting on dries, but Arjun Maini and Max Powell will lead them around with Maro Engel and Mirko Bortolotti on road 2. Luca Stoltz, Saxon Ring race winner, and Lucas Auer next up with Luca Engstler and Nicky Tim on row 4. Ben Durr with his best qualifying so far in 9th ahead of Thierry Vermeulen. Ricardo Feller and Ian Nguyen start on the 6th row. Franck Pereira making his guest start for Christian Engelhardt with Marco Wittmann, René Rast and Jack Aitken for company. Kelvin van der Linde 17th, Thomas Preining 18th, Clement Schmidt 19th, and with a 5-place grid penalty for picking up 3 reprimands over the course of the last few races. Then Sheldon van der Linde starting in dead last place. Alongside me in the commentary box, it's a good afternoon to Brian Oliver. And Brian, this is a very interesting looking grid, and with the weather just having that little shower, it's brightening up now, but that little shower has made the circuit damp. It's 50-50 on which tyres you go for.
Good afternoon, Chris. Yes, tyre strategy is going to be very interesting. Kelvin van der Linde, Thomas Preining starting towards the back as well. In fact, all of the former champions starting at the back of the pack, including the championship leader as well. They're all going to be wanting to push their way through. We saw wet weather tyres being fitted on many of the cars, but it has stopped raining. This is going to be interesting. A real race of strategy. A lot of quick guys are going to be looking to push their way through as quickly as possible. Of course, this circuit, with only 10 turns at just over 4.3 kilometres, not a lot of space either. We've got track limits to think about as well. And of course, it might just rain halfway through. We've got so many variables. This is really too tough to call.
And news coming out this morning that this is going to be the penultimate weekend of the Abt Sportsline team running Audis. They've run them for 25 years, but they are going to switch to Lamborghinis next year. A new partnership for the Abt Sportsline team, and they will be on the grid with Lamborghini, having already developed a partnership with Lamborghini for the last couple of years, racing those cars in the Nürburgring 24-hour race. Spoke to Martin Tomczyk this morning, and he said he's the team principal of Abt Sportsline, and he said the team are reinvigorated. They're really looking forward to the challenge ahead of racing a new car. It's like a fresh wind running through the company, he said. So there would be challenges because they know the Audi inside out and backwards. They're fairly confident, though, that the Lamborghini Huracan will be competitive for them next year, and they do know something about the car from their endurance setup with it on the Nürburgring 24 hours. Engines fired up, then we're going to get 2 formation laps because of the changing conditions. The clock will start to count down at the end of the first formation lap in this 60-minute plus 1 lap race. Mandatory pit stop in the middle 20 minutes of the race, from 20 to 40 minutes in, where they also have to come in and change their tyres. If there is a full course yellow or a safety car during that pit stop window, then you come in and make a pit stop, but it won't count as your mandatory pit stop. So Kelvin van der Linde towards the back of the field, probably feeling like, well, maybe it is right time to get rid of the Audi and go to Lamborghini, because it's been a struggle so far today. But wouldn't it be a great story for him and for AB Sportsline if they could win their last season together with Audi, the championship? But there's an Italian called Mirko Bortolotti and a German called Maro Engel and a couple of others that might just have something to say about that. What I would like to say as well is that there'll be lots of people watching from South Africa, and a big inspiration for Kelvin van der Linde is his granddad Henny, who himself was a brilliant touring car racer. He was the most successful South African touring car racer back in the 70s and 80s, won 5 championship titles in South Africa as a Nissan factory driver. And Henny is celebrating his 80th birthday today. So happy birthday to Kelvin and Sheldon van der Linde's granddad. I'm sure he'll be watching here and hoping that his 2 grandchildren can come charging through the field. We shall see. They could probably do with a bit of rain to help them out. But it is looking good at the moment for Mercedes, isn't it? With 1, 2, 3, 4 Mercedes in the top 6 in qualifying on a track, Brian, where they haven't won since 2003.
Yes, but they've been looking dialed in all the way through in both wet and dry conditions, in free practice, in quali. Can they carry this on for the duration of a race? Well, Arjun Maini has definitely looked very much on the pace in every session that we've seen him in. Maro Engel, big danger man in P3 as well, but also Max Powell. Remember, he took his one and only win in DTM in very wet conditions at the Nürburgring on his debut. He'd probably be quite happy if the rain came down as well.
Yeah, we spoke to Mirko Bortolotti after qualifying. He was pleased with 4th place, but he was, let's say, not best pleased about the BOP the Lamborghinis have got. They reckon it's going to be a tough weekend for them. The cars are lighter than they were last year, but they haven't been given any benefits in terms of lesser air restriction or anything like that. So in terms of the balance of performance, to equalise these different levels of cars, the Audis, the BMWs, the Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Mercedes, and McLaren's, all with different levels of power, varying between around about 550 to 720 brake horsepower in the case of the McLaren's, and all with different engine capacities from 3 litres up to 6.3 litres. Then the balance of performance, trying to equalise things out for the drivers in terms of weight normally, and then boost given or taken away for those turbo-powered cars, the Ferraris, the BMWs, the McLarens, and air restrictors as well. The Audis have got a slightly bigger air restrictor than they had last year, 37mm air restrictors rather than 36mm here in 2023. The Mercedes, interestingly, have got a 1.5 millimetre bigger restrictor, so more airflow, and therefore the engine's able to breathe easier, seemingly more power. They had 34.5mm restrictors last year, 36mm restrictors this year. So maybe they can get that first win with certainly Maro Engel looking to get his first win of the season. That would be a great time to do it. BMWs have traditionally been strong here in terms of performance, but haven't always got the results for it, and they're going to have to work hard from lowly qualifying positions once again. In the GT3 era of DTM here in the last 3 seasons, we've had wins for Ferrari 3 times and 1 apiece for Audi, BMW and Porsche. Mercedes have actually had more podiums with 5, Ferrari 3, Audi 3 and BMW 3. So the theory that the BMWs always go well around here hasn't always followed up with their results. That said, René Rast did get a win here with Sheldon van der Linde behind him in 2nd place in the dry race 2 last year. So a chance to get a feel for what the levels of grip are like, and it looks like, according to the graphic, only Clement Schmidt-Bride has gambled with the slick tyres, and if you're at the back of the grid, you might as well gamble.
Yeah, got nothing to lose, really. We saw them working really hard on that 2nd formation lap. It is critical to get the heat into the tyres with temperatures just under 11 degrees centigrade. You want to have the grip when you arrive into turn 1 at full speed, which is what they're about to do.
Remember, the clock started to tick down after the end of the 1st formation lap, 2 formation laps because of the changeable conditions. So technically the timer's started to run in this 60-minute race, and we've got the rolling start about to get underway. The safety car will peel in. Arjun Maini and Max Powell will lead them round. Arjun Maini for the first time ever, the first Indian driver on pole position. Max Powell was on pole at Zandvoort but went backwards in the race. What can he do? And Maro Engel and Mirko Bortolotti, with championship points to think about, are on on the second row of the grid. Here we go then, the DTM at Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. 4 rounds to go, a crucial race gets underway, bursts into life, and they charge then towards the first corner at turn 1, and Arjomani's made a great start. And look at the white Mercedes of Maro Engel. He's up the inside of Max Powell, side by side on the way into turn 1 at Niki Lauda. They go. Maini leads the race. Engel at the moment is second, but Max Powell is keeping his foot firmly buried on that throttle as they come uphill flat out towards turn 2. Engel's going to have the inside line at the hairpin, and then Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini is coming after them. 3 abreast. The Italian trying to go around the outside here. All on the brakes they stand, slow it down to around about 90 kilometres an hour. Bortolotti is still around the outside. I think Engel has squeezed through on the inside and should be in second place, but Bortolotti has gained one. He's got around the Lamborghini of Max Powell. Powell then, as they head down towards turn 4 for the first time, is brought to 4th place, and then the Mercedes of Lucas Auer and Lucas Stolz are side by side in the background for 5th place. Out wide goes Maro Engel, trying to get the lead of the race away from Arjomani. Surely these wet tyres are going to have to change to slicks pretty soon unless more rain comes, because they're going to be overheated here. But Maro Engel, look, gets the inside line on the way down through turn 5 into turn 6. He's got the lead of the race away from Arjomani. So Maro Engel at one stage looked like he was possibly going to drop back to 3rd or 4th, has ended up leading the race on the first lap with Maini 2nd, Bortolotti 3rd. Lucas Auer has got past Max Powell as well on that run down through the sequence of corners at turns 5 and 6. So Powell from 2nd on the grid finds himself down in 5th, with Lucas Stolz in 6th, and Vermeulen with a good start as well has gained 3 places. The first of the Ferraris runs in 7th place at the end of lap 1, Brian.
What a start for Maro Engel. He who dares wins. He certainly dared, as did Mirko Bortolotti, but you can see he's struggling for pace. He's already dropped back from the leading 2 Mercedes. It was a right fist fight in the middle of the pack. We saw carbon fibre flying up into the air, a little bit of damage, elbows out, but everybody's still running. Many of the cars that started further back, pushing hard to try and find their way through, but there's looks like Luca Engstler, who's gone wide through one of the advertising hoardings. He rejoins on turn 2, but a long way at the back of the pack.
Yeah, having got a very good qualifying. René Rast with a super first lap as well. He was up to 10th at the end of the first lap. He's up to 8th place now in the blue BMW. We're right on board with him as well. So there's a mega start here. His next target is the green Manthey EMA Porsche of Ayhan Guha, the Turkish driver, who did 147 laps in a private test here, along with 11 other DTM drivers. He was so busy as Rast tries to go around the outside of him at turn 4. Finds he's got grip but can't find a way past and tucks back in behind. So the blue BMW on the attack here, all the way up from near the back of the grid up into 8th place, challenging Ayhan Guha here, who's just ahead of him. And side by side they go with Thierry Vermeulen just ahead as well in the Ferrari with the windscreen wipers on. So there's 1 or 2 spots of rain coming. Vermeulen side by side with Guha as they went down towards turn 7. Did he squeeze through or not? We'll see in a moment. But you're on board now with Thomas Preining, who's made a bit of ground up. He's on the tail of Jack Aitken, who is 4th in the championship and is the only driver this year to win 3 races to go through now into the next braking zone, and he gets the inside line held there, does Jack Aitken. That little uphill run into turn 9. It's downhill now through turns 9 and 10, and the Ferrari just about fends off the Porsche.
Preining did briefly get in front of Jack Aitken, but Aitken had him back again, fighting through from further back right into the pits. That's Thierry Vermeulen, Luca Engstler with billboards still attached. So it looks like we've got tyre changes going to be happening already. Of course, this is not part of the mandatory stop. This is going to be on top of the mandatory stop as well.
No, I think Clement Schmidt, if that graphic was right and he's on the slick tyre, he's going to be rubbing his hands here. And that was why the DECRA advertising hoarding was completely obliterated. Out wide and onto the grass went Luca. And with part of that board remaining, it's going to stimulate the airflow into the car. So the right decision to come in, and you might as well change tyres and go on the slicks, I reckon, unless... I don't think there is light rain out there, but it's very, very light at the moment. Looking out the commentary box window, we get a replay of the start. And it was a really good start from Arjomani. Also an excellent start from Maro Engel. He squeezed alongside Max Powell. Then Powell goes way out wide. Bortolotti went wide as well, didn't he, coming out of the Niki Lauda turn at turn 1. Look how good that was from René Rast. Absolutely slicing his way through here, charging through the field from 3/4 of the way down through the grid, side by side overhead. Nicky Tim involved in that. And they actually lost 1 place there to Ayhan Guha, and having nosed in front of him initially into turn 1. There was contact between Nicky Tim and Luca Engstler. Luca Engstler then got a little tag as he got out of shape from René Rast, so who's been battered about at the start of the lap. Looking back there, that was the contact with Thierry Vermeulen who's on his own racing line, to be fair, but Luca Engstler tried to squeeze at the inside and there was no room to do so. And this was Maro Engel looking like he was going to go out wide and lose the position, but it turned out to be a stroke of genius, this, Brian, because he carried the momentum around the outside all the way through turn 5 and down into the left at turn 6.
That was brave driving, wasn't it, going to the outside, particularly in these slippery conditions. René Rast, well, he takes one of the track limits markers. I don't know if that counts as exceeding track limits or not, really, but he slid the BMW around the corner, stayed back onto the track, looking down from turn 3. Maro Engel very much under control at the moment, but there's Franck Pereira taking a different line into the corner, on board with 9th place René Rast, looking at the back, and Nicky Tim.
Kelvin van der Linde, 15th place, so he's gained a few positions. He's going to get a championship point for 15th, which is something, but not anything like what he's after this weekend. He said yesterday, realistically, if it's dry, we're looking at finishing somewhere between 5th and 10th. We're not going to be strong enough around here to challenge in these dry conditions for a podium, that's for sure. Thomas Preining is pushing on as much as he can in these greasy conditions. In 14th place, he now becomes 30th, or tries to be 13th and get around the outside of Aitken. He's got to fend off here. Kelvin van der Linde, you're on board with 5th in the championship, the defending champion, and a driver that would very much like to become the new champion. He's trying to squeeze that Abt Sports line Audi up the inside, but the R8 goes on the curbs, gets out of shape, and there's no way through there. So Preining fends him off as they come out of turn 8, uphill then. And before you get that little descent on the way into turn 9, and coming out of the penultimate turn, the circuit really falls away here. It's downhill through turn 10. That sucks you to the outside of the circuit, and that's why we get all these track limits infringements. Somebody else has taken another Marco Bollard out, so there's 3 at the start of the race. There's only 1 left already, and we've still got 50 minutes and 45 seconds to go.
3rd place, Mirko Bortolotti. Before we say that, here's Marco Wittmann on team radio. Come back to you on that one.
We have no pace. I have no grip at all.
So struggling for pace in the BMW. I was about to say Mirko Bortolotti, fastest man on the track at 1:35.941. So he's in 3rd place at the moment and he's closing in on the leaders. Maro Engel did respond on the previous lap, but Bortolotti currently with that quickest lap.
Yeah, 1:35.941. Vermeulen, we know, has been into the pits. He's 19th. He's just done a 1:36.5. So we'll keep an eye on that because that's about 6/10 slower than the fastest lap. Would assume Vermeulen has gone onto the dry tyres. We'll wait for that to be confirmed with the graphic. And Engstler likewise, but at the moment they're not quite at the crossover point, and we've just got that little bit of dampness and drizzle in the air, so it's taking a while to dry out this, as Wittmann, who's complaining about having no grip, gets out of shape. He's got van der Linde behind him now, because van der Linde has got ahead of Preining, and this, on a replay from the onboard, is how it happened. Preining just running a bit wide, leaving the door open. That was coming out of turn 4. And van der Linde gaining another place then. So it's up to 13th position now for the championship leader. Next target, the big BMW of Marco Wittmann, himself a former 2-time champion, new father as well, with his wife having given birth to their daughter Lenny just a few weeks ago. He's also had his first podium in the World Endurance Championship recently as well at Fuji. So it's been a pretty good couple of weeks for Marco Wittmann as he comes uphill this steep climb on the way into turn 1, thuds the curb. He's still got about 2 car lengths advantage over Kelvin van der Linde. Then you got Preining, then you got Sheldon van der Linde. So some high quality drivers towards the back of the field here, including in that pack of 4, Brian, 3 champions.
Yes, all the previous champions starting at the back, and Kelvin van der Linde mixing it with them as well. Of course, to remind you, Kelvin van der Linde, just as he challenges out of turn 3, is also carrying an additional 10 kilograms on account of finishing 2nd in the previous race at Sachsenring. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much. Lucas Stoltz has an additional 20 kilos because he won last time out, and Thierry Vermeulen an extra 5 kilos to the inside of Marco Wittmann. When we heard that radio message from Marco Wittmann, we knew he probably wasn't going to put up too much of a fight, and Kelvin van der Linde goes sailing through. He's into 12th place.
So if it stays like this, 12th place would give Kelvin van der Linde 4 championship points at the moment. Bortolotti would be on 183 points, and he'd be the new championship leader. But Maro Engel would only be 2 behind him on 181, and Kelvin van der Linde, as it stands, is going to drop to 3rd in the championship on 174 points, and there would only be 9 points between them. It is very, very early days in this race, though, and Kelvin has made a very strong, positive start, throwing everything at it, the South African, to try and dig something out of this damage limitation. As you see Maro Engel make his way into turn 1, the race leader, and we can hear from him on team radio.
8 minutes, and Schmidt is already the quickest car on slicks. Schmidt is already the quickest car on slicks.
Yeah, and there you go. Clement Schmidt has set a time of 1:35.3. Make that 1:34.4. He crosses the line and goes even quicker. So that is the guinea pig. That's the one that started on slick tyres. And the McLaren is flying now as out wide goes Maro Engel there. And he's going to leave the door open to Bortolotti, who's going to sneak past on the way out of turn 3 and get the lead of the race. So the top two in the race, 2 of the top 3 in the championship battling away here, and that will move the points advantage bigger to Mirko Bortolotti, but he leaves the door open on the way to turn 4. He's struggling to make the apex of the corner, but the Italian is through. And that was a gift, really. Maro Engel clearly struggling on tyres, Brian, which are probably going to start to overheat now, those wet tyres, on a drying track.
Yeah, he'll be searching for the puddles to try and cool them down. The teams will have wanted to have dragged this out until the pit window opens, but you get the feeling we might see some more cars pitting before the pit window opens to get onto the slick tyres, because now clearly the slick tyre is the tyre of choice.
Yeah, but all of those front runners are on the same tyre, the wet tyre. So who's going to jump first? On board with Thomas Preining, who's now ahead of Marco Wittmann. So Wittmann struggling down to 14th place. You feel he might as well come in, hadn't he? Because he's going backwards on these tyres. Maybe be the first to make a gamble from those still on the wet tyre. So Marco Wittmann struggling, loses another place. Thomas Preining puts himself up to 13th and is on course for some championship points. The thing is, though, if you can possibly hang on for another nearly 6 minutes, you can do your pit stop, and that'll be your only pit stop. You can make it the mandatory pit stop. But how much time are you going to lose if you stay on the wets? If you can go on the slicks, yes, you're going to lose about 36 seconds it takes to do a full pit stop, but you'll gain a lot of time as well.
Keep me on the left rear.
Hit me on the left rear, Mirko Bortolotti said. That was the replay as he came through, as Maro just couldn't make the corner in the dry when they're on slick tyres. They approach that corner at about 260 kilometres an hour, and they drop it down to first gear and just over 60 kilometres an hour. It's a huge heavy braking. It's a huge climb uphill as well, so it's very easy to miss the braking point. And look at this, Kelvin van der Linde and Thomas Preining, wheel to wheel. Preining, the Austrian, down the inside on the way into turn 4 and rides the curbs, and the Manthey EMA Porsche gains a place. That's the first time in the race that Kelvin van der Linde has gone backwards. He loses a place, and that drops him down to 13th as the BMW teammates of Sheldon van der Linde and Marco Wittmann go side by side on the way to turn 6, trying to go all the way around the outside. Here is the South African. This will be brave. Around the outside of Marco Wittmann. Not many people have ever done that in the history of Marco Wittmann being a racing driver, but Sheldon is trying. He's got the inside line now, and he's going to nip up the inside here of Wittmann, and he'll make that position his own when they get to turn 9.
2 former champions, Kelvin van der Linde, current championship leader, and another defending champion in front of them, all fighting each other at the start of this race. Thomas Preining said, I'm going to enjoy pushing forwards. Well, that's exactly what he appears to be doing. All 3 of the bollards have gone missing, so we're going to have to guess where the track limits are. But Thomas Preining in that 12th place, in towards turn 1, a steep climb up the hill. It's a lot steeper than you think in towards turn 1. Then the heavy braking into the right hand out of turn 1. Then it's flat out around turn 2, up an even steeper hill in towards turn 3.
If you're going to switch to the slicks, you wanted to have done it 3 or 4 minutes ago, really, to try and get enough time to gain the advantage on those slick tyres. But is that much of an advantage at the moment? Clement Schmidt's doing 134s, and most of the front runners are doing 136s, so it's only a couple of seconds a lap. So you can see why they're all hanging on to the pit window opening. And as soon as that pit window opens in 3 minutes and 40 seconds, all hell is going to break loose in the pit lane, because they're all going to come in at the same time to try and get rid of these wet tyres, because they're the wrong tyre to be on at the moment. But it's just not worth coming in and making an extra pit stop, because the amount of time you'd lose, as I say, about 36 seconds. You've got no time to make that up now before everybody else is going to do the same in the pit window. So with that place lost for Kelvin van der Linde, with Bortolotti moving into the lead of the race a couple of laps ago, I reckon it would now be Bortolotti on 188 points, Engel on 176 and van der Linde on 173. Suddenly 15 points behind, having been 7 points in front at the start of the race, at the start of the day.
It all turns around very, very quickly in DTM, doesn't it? And Clement Schmidt now has caught up with the BMWs, made easy work of Marco Wittmann, now challenging Sheldon van der Linde Having pitted so early, Clement Schmidt could be in the box seats for a really good finish here. Out along the pit straight, side by side, the McLaren running alongside the BMW up towards turn 1. Sheldon van der Linde probably won't put up too much of a fight. He knows he's on a disadvantaged tyre.
Yeah, Clement Schmidt then with that move up to 14th place. His teammate Ben Durr, who is on the wet tyre, remember started 9th and he's behind him now. He's back in 18th place. But to remind you, Clements will still have to come in and pit like everybody else because he's on the slick tyre. But he's got more flexibility of bet when he makes that pit stop now. I doubt he'll come in at the start of the pit window, but he goes wide there. It shows it's still a bit greasy in parts of this circuit. But I doubt he'll want to come in at the start of the pit window because he knows if the pit lane is going to be absolutely full, he'll probably stay out until the end of the window, I would reckon now, and try and get his head down and pull away as much as he can.
Yes, in 2 minutes' time, I predict there is going to be a snake of 18 cars all coming into the pits at the same time. That'll be when Clement Schmidt will really have payoff time because he'll have a nice clear track in front of him and he'll be able to close in and undercut a few of the cars around him.
Yeah, so he's still lapping in the 134. Some of them at the front, like Arjun Miney's just done 135.6, so that's his best lap of the race so far. So I know Clements is coming through the traffic and battling away, but it's not a massive advantage yet to be on the slick tyres. We'll be looking at the radars though, because yes, it's drying up now, but are there any more rain clouds coming is the question. It looks fairly bright overhead though, so I think we're going to be all right for the time being as Maro Engel goes over the line in second place with only a 0.6 second advantage to Arjun Miney. He's right with him now. Then it's the next Mercedes of Lucas Auer, fourth, looking for his fourth place finish of the year. He's looking for his first podium, Lucas Auer, since Nürburgring in the middle of last year. It's been more than 12 months since Lucas was on the podium, which is very rare indeed for such a strong driver. So he's up there pushing hard. His teammate in the GT World Challenge is 2 places ahead of him. Maro Engel, he goes wide though. It's still slippy, isn't it, on the way into that right-hander? And Lucas Stoltz gets at the inside of him on the way out of turn 3, and that will be a change then for 4th place, possibly, because Lucas Auer never gives in. He might be on the outside line, he might be slightly behind, but he's going to brake really late here on the way into turn 4 and try to get the place back. I think Lucas Stoltz, though, should be able to fend him off, and the black Mercedes goes through.
Meanwhile, Mirko Bortolotti has disappeared into the distance, 7.1 seconds ahead of this fight for second place. So some real pace in the Lamborghini at the moment. He may decide he doesn't want to pit as soon as the pit window opens, which is going to be in about 12 seconds.
We've talked about Maro Engel not yet winning a race this season. Mirko Bortolotti second in the championship coming into this race. Hasn't won a race yet either. This will be a real bonus win if he can get this one. Even if he can get a podium out of this, he'll be delighted because he didn't fancy his chances when we spoke to him if it was going to be dry. He said, we need some rain. We've just not got any pace around here in dry conditions. And he did a good job in qualifying in the greasy conditions to put the car on the second row of the grid. Right, pit stops starting to happen then. Maro Engel has come in, Max Powell has come in, Engel Nguyen has come in the background as well. And Ricardo Feller, the first of the Audis to come in also. And who else? That's it for now, I think. So those 4 coming into the pits. Now more coming in the background, including Sheldon van der Linde. So a crucial pit stop then here for the Winwood team, who are second in the pit stop challenge this year behind Manthey EMA with the top 3 fastest pit stops scoring points. They're only 1 point behind Manthey. So another good pit stop. That looked like Maro Engel is released away. 7.7 seconds. Not mega, but pretty good. We had a 5.94 second pit stop from Emil Frey Racing for Jack Aitken here last year. It was absolutely superb, but 6.5 seconds or less is really, really good. 7 seconds, 7.5 seconds is okay. There's a 6.5 second pit stop for Manthey and Engel Nguyen. That's the quickest so far. And the McLaren of Ben Durr is released as well. So Bortolotti leads. Miney will be up to second. Stoltz up to third. Auer fourth. And then Nicky Tim up to fifth.
There's still a fair few that haven't come in for a stop, expecting actually more than what we saw. It's still Mirko Bortolotti leading the way at the moment. He's up at turn 9 at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see if he peels off. 11.3 seconds ahead of Arjun Miney, so in a really strong position. He's past the pit lane entrance and he peels off into the pits. So race leader Mirko Bortolotti coming in for his mandatory stop.
You can tell it was an in-lap. He set the absolute best first sector and then the absolute best second sector at the time, but then behind him Clement Schmidt has been going even quicker. He's got the fastest lap of the race already. Clements, who's up to 9th place now, will be up to 8th potentially, depending on how this pit stop goes. So in they come, and SSR Performance ready for his big pit stop. The wet tyres come off. Arjun Miney has come in as well. I can see from the commentary box window. So Miney is in, and Lucas Auer has come in as well. And so too as Kelvin van der Linde, the championship leader at the start of the race, comes in then. The AB Sportsline team looking to get him away. Bortolotti, 7 seconds dead stationary time. A good pit stop. He adheres to the pit lane speed limit till he gets to the white line. Away he goes. The AB Sportsline Audi is released off the jacks. Kelvin van der Linde stationary for 7.5 seconds. Pretty good. Not mega, but okay from the crew. So van der Linde going early, getting onto the slick tyre. We'll see how this all pans out, but Bortolotti has made his stop. Stoltz then will pick up the lead of the race. Tim in second, René Rast from 15th on the grid. For a while at least, he's going to be in the top 3.
Amazing stuff. Sadly for Luca Engstler, he's got a visit to the penalty box for speeding in the pit lane. So car number 19 will have to drive through the penalty box at no more than 50 kilometres an hour. Here's a replay. A bit of a struggle getting that front right on Mauro Engel's car. Still reasonably quick, but not as quick as they would have liked it.
Yeah, it could have been slightly better that, couldn't it? But it wasn't a disaster. So much to do in so little time in those pit stops. Big heavy wheels as well. It's a brilliant job that those teams do. Incredible to do it as quickly as they do. So, Lucas Stoltz, Nicky Tim, René Rast, and then Clement Schmidt are going to be the top 4, but not quite getting to the line. In third place is René Rast, because he now bails for the pits with from Pereira standing in for Christian Engelhardt coming in as well, and Lucas Stoltz comes in from what effectively was the lead of the race. So in they come. Mirko Bortolotti is just making his way into turn 9. Mauro Engel is a net second. Arjun Maini is a net third at the moment. And they are about to be released. Anjan Guwen has come out of this well. He's ahead, look, of Max Powell and Ricardo Fella. So Anjan Guwen, with a good pit stop, a really quick pit stop, as I said, is in a good position here to be well up in the top 10 when things settle down. So Bortolotti makes his way into turn 1 as they come out of the pits. Into turn 1 now is going to go Mauro Engel. So he'll still be second of the pit stoppers. And Thomas Priding almost into the back of the Lamborghini, the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini there, of Franck Pereira, as he tried to wrestle a position coming out of the pit lane, but couldn't quite get ahead of the Lambo.
Clement Schmidt continues to lead the way. Of course, he still has to make a stop. Nicky Tim is the only other driver that needs to make a stop. So the net leader, Mirko Bortolotti, in third place, but Clement Schmidt will have made up ground, having switched to slicks a lot earlier than anybody else. A real traffic jam up on the exit of turn 3. A lot of fighting for position further back. René Rast still not giving up in that 10th place.
I think we've got Lucas Stoltz in a net third, just, and I mean just, ahead of Arjun Maini. Looking at the track map that we get on the timing screen, I think the number 4 car is just ahead of the number 36 Mercedes, and that would be for the final spot on the podium. So we'll see how that goes. Nicky Tim has come into the pits then, so he's the last of those drivers, and it was all but one driver that started the race on wet tyres. So he comes in, Clement Schmidt stays out. He was the only one that started the race on the slick tyres, so he comes in and makes his stop. Vermeulen and Engstler, who stopped early on in the race to change tyres, have come in and now made their second stops of the race, their mandatory pit stops. SSR then change, put the brand new stickered front tyres, slick Pirellis onto Nicky Tim's cars. A little bit sticky getting the wet off that front left. So away he will go, but Nicky Tim, what was the time? It was okay. No, it wasn't. It was 13.4 seconds. So, yeah, a bad pit stop, I'm afraid, there is going to make Nicky Tim's life very hard here. It's the rear to start with. That's a bit of bodywork that was jamming it. So that was taking a while, and then they struggled a bit with the front left as well to get the front left off. Took a little bit longer than you would hope, and then he just missed the wheel gun lining up with the nut first time around. Oh, and oh dear, I can see Marco Wittmann is driving his BMW into the garage, which looks like it's going to be our first retirement as Lucas Stoltz gets battled left and right and centre with Anjan Guwen on one side, Lucas Auer on the other side here. Look at this fantastic battle as they come absolutely together. We've got penalty laps coming up for 3 drivers, including Thierry Vermeulen. We'll come back to that in a moment. Now look at this. Lucas Stoltz and Lucas Auer tagging each other. Lucas Auer gets tagged again on the way out of the corner, sent wide. Lucas Stoltz is going to get back down the inside of him. Anjan Guwen is going to get back down the inside of him on the way downhill, on the way into turn 5. And he's not done yet defending, because he's got the Audi alongside him of Kelvin van der Linde, the Lamborghini of Max Powell for company as well, and van der Linde gains a place as well. Now Max Powell will dive up the inside. It's like watching a kart race, that. You get offline and they all come charging through. You cannot get back on the racing line. And Lucas Auer ends up losing 4 places in the blink of an eye. What a battle that was. And it is effectively the battle for 4th, because Arjun Maini, before we got to that battle, had wrestled himself back ahead of Lucas Stoltz. And because they battled each other so hard there, they're going to be a long way behind Arjun now. He's crossed the line already in 3rd place.
Wow, a 5-way battle for 5th or net 4th place. And Kelvin van der Linde very much in there as well. Lucas Stoltz holds on at the moment. Kelvin van der Linde taking a very wide line into turn 1, but nothing happening. So he slots back in behind. Now in single file around turn 2, up towards turn 3. But I think we're going to see some more moves from this pack.
Yeah, Clement Schmidt's the race leader. He's got to make his mandatory stop. He is 36.5 seconds in front of Arjun Maini. He could be on for a top 3, top 4 finish here, Clement Schmidt, because 36 seconds is about the average for a pit stop as Max Powell comes alongside Kelvin van der Linde now to try and get that place back away from him. You watch this on board with Lucas Auer. This tremendous battle that we've got going on the run down into the right-hander. Sorry, Ricardo fell and up Kelvin van der Linde. Ricardo just ahead of his teammate, and into the pits now come Clement Schmidt. A bit earlier than I thought he would, actually. So Clemens comes in, still more than half of the pit window open, and the McLaren driver comes in, but he should come out somewhere around Arjun Maini, Lucas Stoltz, which means 3rd or 4th, at worst, I think 5th place when getting back out, if they can get the tyre change done effectively. It looks pretty good, though. The Dürr Motorsport team dropped the McLaren off the jacks. He lights up the tyres. So there's Bortolotti coming through. Maro Engel has now got the fastest lap of the race in 2nd. He's closing the gap to the Lamborghini, looking for his 1st win of the season. Arjun Maini just going over the start-finish line. So he's going to come out somewhere in that chaotic pack, battling over 4th place. Lucas Stoltz, Engin Gu and Ricardo Feller and Max Powell all in that group. Out he comes, right in front of them. But he's got to get his tyres up to temperature. And so by the time they get to turn 3 and turn 4, that gap is going to come right down. But that is a terrific plan of action, well executed. And the McLaren driver finds himself in a podium position.
Well, Dürr Motorsport might be new to DTM this year, but that will be a master strategic move, getting him early onto those slick tyres and then running him into the window. As you say, I thought he was going to run a bit later into the window. Clearly, they were put some fairly old slicks on. They've got nice new rubber on now, so in a really strong position into 4th place.
Yeah, 4th on course for a potential podium. You've got a 4th place finish, brilliant 4th place finish at Zandvoort, which is the team's best result so far in their 1st season of the championship. He's 4th, but look how quickly that gap comes down as you get your tyres up to temperature. And already, look, Lucas Stoltz, who was about 4 seconds behind him, is now all over him and looking to get out the inside. And it takes about a lap to get your tyres up to temperature. He's going to fight hard, though, in his home circuit here. Clement Schmidt, there's contact between them. Lucas Stoltz fighting to be into 4th place here. They come over the crest into turn 9. They're going around the outside. Goes the Sachsenring race winner. Keeps the momentum going, goes right off the circuit because he carried so much speed into the turn. But he's got the place. He's 4th, down to 5th place goes the McLaren, and he's got the Porsche of Engin Gu now attacking him as they go over the start-finish line.
Yeah, looking a bit vulnerable as they head along the pit straight up towards turn 1. Engin Gu to the inside, sweeps through without too much effort at all. Ricardo Feller also following through on his coattails and out along towards turn 2.
Right, so battling on track down in the pit lane. I'm afraid we're missing Marco Wittmann. Let's find out what happened with Farina.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're missing Marco Wittmann. He's still sitting in the car. He's getting out of the car right now. So let's find out from the boss, from Thorsten Schubert, what the problem is. Herr Schubert, warum hat das Rennen für Marco aufgehört? Was ist das Problem mit dem Auto?
Wir haben irgendwie ein Problem an der Hinterachse mit dem Getriebe. Müssen wir mal sehen, was die Temperaturen, warum die hier so hoch gegangen sind. Wir können es uns jetzt noch nicht genau erklären. Müssen wir mal sehen, was da genau ist.
Herzlichen Dank. So basically, just a quick sum up is it's the temperature of the car went extremely high up. They don't quite know what the problem is yet. It's somewhere in the back of the problem, but they don't know what it is. So unfortunately, the race of Marco had to end. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Farina. So Engin Gu has got past the McLaren, and you were just watching the Max Powell blue Lamborghini of Powell Motorsport get past the McLaren of Clement Schmidt as well. And now he's got Lucas Auer breathing down his neck. You're on board with Lucas now as they charge up over the crest into the right-hander at turn 9. Can he get through? He's going to try. He's all over the curbs as they go through the Jochen Rindt turn into turn 10. He shows his nose again at the final turn, but he can't get through, and that will put him on the back foot, you know. And guess who's behind him? 3-time champion. René Rast, 4 times a winner here in DTM at the Red Bull Ring, more wins than anybody else around this circuit in DTM, and he's going to try and sail around the outside of Lucas Auer. Good luck with that, because Lucas is the last of the late breakers and just about fends him off. and that is bringing Kelvin van der Linde closer to them. Now, Kelvin gained a couple of positions during that pit window, so he's come back out of it now in 11th place. He's going to get 5 points rather than 3. Bearing in mind how low down the grid he started, it's not a bad turnaround, but he'd like a couple more places if he can. Lucas Auer, he's in a huge train now, trying to get past the McLaren of Clement Schmidt, who at the moment is fending them off for 8th place.
While all that's been going on, Arjun Maini has set the fastest lap of anybody in the race, a 1:30.282, so he's not done yet, as Max Powell once again pulls clear of Riccardo Fellow. So yes, Mirko Bortolotti leading the way, 2.1 seconds. Mauro Engel keeping him very much inside, but Arjun Maini in that 3rd place, closing in on both of them.
Yeah, so good move that from Max Powell into turn 4 to squeeze down the inside of the Audi of Riccardo Fellow. That puts Max back up to 6th place now, having a good race. A disappointment when he qualified on pole position at Zandvoort and tumbled pretty quickly down the order. We know he was a race winner as a guest starter last year, but the season has been a difficult season for the family-run privateer team, effectively. He's back in 19th place in the championship. His best result this year is a 9th place finish. That was the one that came from the pole position at Zandvoort. So he's on course for his and the team's best race result in 2024. And they can see race laps for Wales in Africa with over 10,100 laps combined run and €4 donated by BWT and the ADAC to this great cause to get cleaner water in African countries. The total amount raised this year alone is approaching €41,000 now. And they're in 6-figure sums for the amount of money they've raised during that last 3 years with the cause of raising clean water and providing fresh drinking water for countries like Gambia and Tanzania. So the onboard camera you're looking at now is Kelvin van der Linde, just trying to limit the damage here and get as many points out of the race as he can. The door nicely opens up though, because way out wide at turn 4 goes René Rast. That's a gift horse. He's going to try and go for it now on the way through turn 5, and he'll do just that. So the Audi squeezes up the inside of the BMW, and that puts him up to 10th place, which means 6 points rather than 5.
He said he'd got some friends who were going to help him along the way. I didn't expect it to be René Rast. There's a bit of damage on the front right of Sheldon van der Linde. He's been very much in the wars as he now goes head-to-head with his teammate. Meanwhile, Nicky Tim's under investigation for an unsafe pit stop, so the steward's taking a look at that. You are looking at René Rast, currently in 11th place, having been passed by Kelvin van der Linde, who has left him in his dust.
Nicky Tim being investigated for an unsafe pit stop. There's damage to the front right corner of the BMW of Sheldon van der Linde, which is in 12th place at the moment. And I can see Lucas Auer having another luck up the inside of Clement Schmidt as they went into turn 1. Clements is sent out wide because there was a Mercedes looking up the inside of him, and he closes the door on the way into turn 2 as they go flat out. So it's downhill initially as you come out of turn 1. They climb steeply all the way up, flat out through turn 2 and into turn 3. Hot on the brakes, Clement Schmidt fighting for his life here, but he goes tight in, which means wide out, and the door opens up. And Lucas Auer is on it now. The Mercedes driver is surely going to get through next time they hit the brakes on the way into turn 4, and that will put Lucas, his home race, up to 8th place. He's back behind him at the moment, but he knows he's got the inside line, and as cool as you like, he throws it up the inside of the McLaren, and there, he's 8th place already exchanged.
So if the race finished now, Kelvin van der Linde would be level with Mauro Engel, 12 points adrift of Mirko Bortolotti, but we've still got 24 minutes of racing plus the 1 lap on board with Kelvin van der Linde. He's not done yet. In 10th place, next up the road, Clement Schmidt. How quickly can he catch him? How quickly can he pass him?
The last lap, Mirko Bortolotti was a 10th quicker than Mauro Engel and did a personal best lap. The lap they've just done, Mauro Engel does a personal best lap and takes the best part of 0.2 of a second out of Bortolotti's lead. So that gap is a touch over 2.1 seconds from Bortolotti in the lead to Engel in second. 9 seconds back from the leader is Arjun Maini in 3rd place, all on his own, but looking for a strong podium finish here. He's currently running 9th in the championship. He's won podium this year, coming at Zandvoort in race 1. And then we've got Lucas Stoltz 4th, Engin Guren running well in 5th place, Max Powell 6th, Riccardo Fellow 7th, Lucas Auer 8th, 9th Clement Schmidt, and then 10th Kelvin van der Linde. The others in the points are René Rast in 11th, Sheldon van der Linde in 12th, Tommy Preining in 13th from Pereira, and Jack Aitken 14th and 15th. Here's a replay then, side by side, one of the many side-by-side moments that we've had between Lucas Auer and Clement Schmidt. Clement Schmidt defending, going tight, that sends him wide on the way out of turns 3 and into turn 4. There was some contact with them as well. It's been a battle, Brian, which has gone on for about 4 laps now, and it's been fairly brutal.
Yes, the battle of the Austrians. Not just really scared to get the elbows out, are they? But now Clement Schmidt is coming under attack from Kelvin van der Linde. Didn't think it was going to be long before he'd caught up with him, but how quickly can he get past him? Kelvin van der Linde continuing his march forwards through the pack. So that is for 9th place.
Worst grid since his first weekend in DTM or not? Come back to all that. Here's Team Radio.
Track limit every corner.
Copy that, copy that. Stay cool, you can get him. We are fine with track limits so far, all good.
Right, so that's the battle. Look at him wresting the wheel, Kelvin van der Linde, as he chases down the McLaren of Clement Schmidt. I was about to say, worst grid since his first weekend in DTM or not. Thomas Preining is 13th. There he is in the Grello Porsche, heading into turn 1. Lights ablaze. That means he's on course for what will be his 29th consecutive point-scoring finish in the championship, having finished every race last year and every race so far this year in the points. So Preining doing a great job. Ricardo Feller at the front of the picture doing a really good job as well, isn't he, in 7th place. He had a tough time of it of late. He had 26 consecutive point-scoring finishes himself until we got to the last round at Sachsenring, where he had 2 retirements and 2 non-finishes, and that put to an end his run and what's been a difficult second half of the season for Ricardo, after a couple of podiums early on, including in the first weekend of the championship at Oschersleben. So he's been struggling this year compared to his teammates, Kelvin van der Linde. It was kind of the other way around last year. Ricardo had a really good year and Kelvin struggled a bit, and Ricardo went into the final round at Hockenheim fighting for the championship title with Thomas Preining and Mirko Bortolotti. But as Kelvin van der Linde said yesterday, it's such tiny margins in this championship, and sometimes you can't really figure out why it's not going your way. He said, we're in the same car. It didn't work out for me last year. It's not working out at the moment for Ricardo, and that you can't really isolate it down to one factor or one thing. It's just a little bit of this going wrong, a little bit of that going wrong. And with it being so tight out there, it doesn't take a lot, Brian, for you to be in the middle of the pack or worse.
No, so easy for it to go wrong, and it's going to be getting a bit interesting at the front here, because Mauro Engel is catching Mirko Bortolotti at the rate of knots. You saw what the gap was between them. You can see what it is now. You can hear Mirko Bortolotti on team radio.
It's flying, honestly, it's flying.
He's flying. Honestly, he's flying.
He is.
Just the fastest lap of the race, Mauro Engel, hasn't he? 1:29.9. So Bortolotti well aware of this. But as I say, even if he can't win the race, second place, I think if you said to Mirko Bortolotti at the start of the weekend, second place in race 1, he'd have absolutely snapped your hand off at that. But when you win in a race, Brian, and you haven't won all year, then you're going to be desperate to make that car as wide as possible. Also, 5 points at stake, 25 points for a win, 20 points for second. And at the end of every weekend for the last few weekends in DTM, we've been down to single figures, the gap between the top 2 in the championship. It could very well come down to 2 or 3 points or less. So he's got to fight for that win, hasn't he?
You get the feeling this championship's going to go to the last corner of the last race, really, don't you? We've still got another 3 after this, and there is nothing between them. Mirko Bortolotti with Mauro Engel closing. Kelvin van der Linde, championship leader, coming into this race, also on a mission. Here he is again, challenging Clement Schmidt. You get the feeling that Ricardo Feller in 7th place will not put up too much of a fight, because that is the next person up the road now ahead of Kelvin van der Linde. He's got Lucas Auer between them.
Yeah, just wide coming out of turn 9 for the McLaren. He couldn't hold it through turn 10. So Kelvin van der Linde gains another championship point, up to 9th place now. That's going to give him 7 points. Lucas Auer might prove more difficult to catch, so he's just over 2 seconds behind. René Rast has gone through on Clement Schmidt as well. So a brave effort this from Clements and McLaren, but ultimately doesn't seem to have the pace now that everybody else is on the same slick tyre as him. He's got fresher tyres than most of them as well, having pitted that little bit later. But 2 places lost then for Clement Schmidt. Yeah, just twitched under braking, didn't he, on the way into turn 9. Let's get team radio and find out from the driver's perspective.
All right, getting to the left. I have to re-out the controller. Fucking hell. I can't say this. Calm down. You have 14 laps.
You've got to live with it, says his race engineer. Come on, we've got 14 laps to go, effectively 18 minutes plus 1 lap left in the race. But the front giving him jip, sending the back out wide. So he's struggling big time at the moment. Just dig in, see what you can get out of this, he says, down out of the top 10 now for Clement Schmidt. So Bortolotti goes through, 1.2 seconds clear. The last lap, another 10th or so taken out of his advantage by Maro Engel. Both drivers looking to get their first wins of 2024, but perhaps more importantly, the 25 points that comes with it. It looks like a good first sector as well, doesn't it, for Maro Engel up to the top of the hill. That Mercedes looks like it's in the quicker part of the section, gone very well and closed the gap again. And yes, he's taken another 3/4 of a tenth of a second out of Bortolotti. He's chipping away at him, and he's got time, hasn't he, with 17 minutes still on the clock.
They're well clear of third place Argemani. He's running very much on his own on the track, our pole sitter. So Mirko Bortolotti, he's very much aware of who's closing in on him. Meanwhile, further back, Rene Rast in 10th place, the fastest of anybody in Sector 1. So he's not done yet either. Kelvin van der Linde just ahead of him. So that is Mirko Bortolotti, our race leader, and Lucas Auer running side by side with Ricardo Feller. So Lucas Auer challenging the number 7 car. That is for 7th place. We look back now at Ricardo Feller as the yellow Mamba picks up another position.
Mirko Bortolotti's last race win was at the Sachsenring last year, so more than a year ago. Maro Engels was at Zandvoort in 2023, so even longer ago. Look at this, Sheldon van der Linde with a very sketchy-looking McLaren going wide again onto the curbs. Looks like he's going to try and gain a place. You watch what's going on board with Thomas Preining, kicking up the dust. He's Clement Schmidt. It's not for the want of trying this, is it? He's pushing as hard as he can, but that car looks like a real handful at the moment. The BMW draws alongside, no way through there. Tucks back onto the curb, tries to get the better drive coming out of turn 10. You're on board with Franck Pereira, who's at the back of this quartet then, battling away all 4 of them for position, with Lucas Auer 7th, Ricardo Feller 8th, Kelvin van der Linde 9th, and Rene Rast 10th. This is the battle for 11th place, and Clement Schmidt again fends them off. But the McLaren might struggle against the turbo-powered BMW. The straight 6 engine might prove a bit too much on this very quick run uphill now to turn 3.
Jack Aitken and Nicky Tim have also caught the back of that queue as they head around turn 2 up the steep hill once again. A move to the outside for Sheldon van der Linde, having a little peep on the outside of Clement Schmidt. He's not going to go the long way around. The view from Thomas Preining under braking, getting incredibly close to the BMW.
Was he ever? Yeah, absolutely right. So van der Linde 9th place, pushing on, trying to limit the damage. He's going to lose the championship lead by the look of it, but if you've only got a dozen points between the top 3 in the championship, 3 races, 3 qualifying sessions to go, then it's still very much game on. And Hockenheim, we know Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi got a pretty good record there. It should be an even playing field. But again, what's the weather going to do in October at Hockenheim? Here's the drone shot then following this battle. In fairness to him, it's been a good lap, this, from Clement Schmidt. He's been able to keep Sheldon van der Linde and Thomas Preining at bay. And the McLaren, which has, unleashed, got 720 brake horsepower, was able to match the BMW on that run up to turn 3. It's in the middle of the lap where he struggles a bit, and it's all to do with the handling of the car, really. He's looking very sketchy and very understeery in the middle of the lap. It's a better run for Clements going through turns 9 and 10. So doing a good job, hanging on for now to 11th place. A replay of this side-by-side action, Brian.
Yes, that's from the perspective of Thomas Preining, who gets a face full of gravel as the McLaren goes wide and throws it up in his face. Holding on for all he's worth, but something of a cork in the bottle probably of that particular queue of cars. Sheldon van der Linde still putting the pressure on, and there is Maro Engel in 2nd place. So the gap between 1st and 2nd, 1.016. So it's going to be less than a second before too long. Finally, Sheldon van der Linde sees a gap on the inside of Clement Schmidt, but that McLaren got a fair bit of grunt on the exit of the corner. It's a drag race as they head towards turn 4. Sheldon van der Linde will have the tighter inside line as they head under braking. Surely he's got the move now. Clement Schmidt trying to hold on around the outside, but that's just left a gap for Thomas Preining to fill on the inside as well.
The next driver on Kelvin van der Linde's target is his teammate Ricardo Feller. Hopefully, from Kelvin's point of view, that's going to be one of his mates, isn't it? That's going to make life a bit easier. So 8th place, I would suspect, might be coming the way of Kelvin van der Linde in the next few laps with 13 minutes and change remaining, and that will again help out with another championship point. So eventually Clement Schmidt has to concede that position, but he has to close the door quickly because he's got an ex-Cure Cars behind him, Preining, and then Pereira in the Lamborghini. Aitken and Tim are all in that battle as well. So it's going to be a bruising last quarter of an hour, less than quarter of an hour now for Clement Schmidt, who's fighting just to stay in the points here and get a point for the Durr Motorsport team. His teammate Ben Durr in the background, he's out of the points, currently running in 17th place. So on the last lap, the gap came down again and by another 1/10 of a second, so it's down to just over a second now. But if he's only taken a 1/10 of a second out of Bortolotti, it's going to take him 10 laps just to get that 1 second back. And that means we're almost going to be at the end of the race.
Yeah, the rate of close was quite quickly to start off with, but now that has diminished as the tyre wear has kicked in. René Rast behind Kelvin van der Linde and Ricardo Feller. This is Kelvin van der Linde to the inside of his teammate as suspected. Not too much of a fight going on into turn 4. Kelvin van der Linde is able to move up that position.
So yeah, 8th place, another championship point. He'll get 8. Engel will get 20 as it stands. 25 will come the way of Bortolotti. So it'll be Bortolotti on 188, van der Linde on 178, and Engel on 176. So back to 2nd place in the championship as it stands. But if Maro Engel wins the race, he'll be down to 3rd place in the championship. So any more opportunities for Kelvin van der Linde to move forward? Well, he's about 2 seconds behind, maybe more than 2 seconds actually, behind Lucas Auer in 7th place. So he's going to need a mighty last 11.5 minutes to get any more positions in this race. He's pushing hard. You've also got to keep an eye on the mirrors because René Rast, as you say, has been flying, and the blue BMW is coming after the 2 AB Sportsline Audis now.
And we've already seen how competitive he is. Kelvin van der Linde, let's hear his team radio.
So Bennett, we try and hold this position again.
He has confirmed P8, 10 laps after this.
Well, that answers the question really, doesn't it? Hold this position and just bring it home and get those points with 11 minutes remaining. So René Rast has got a good view. He'd be quite fancy having a challenge on Kelvin van der Linde. Ricardo Feller doing his best to hold back the BMW.
Yeah, Kelvin could really do with Ricardo holding that BMW up for a few laps here to get the gap, because there's no doubt about it, René Rast is quicker than this pair at the moment, so he's got to make that as wide an Audi R8 as he can, the Swiss driver, help his teammate out here, because every single point is going to count in this championship fight with it being so tight. And this could be a really important 8th place. It won't be anywhere near his best result of the season. It'll be a disappointing result in many ways. But it's these sorts of results, when you've had a bad day and you still dig something out of it, make the difference at the end of the season. This is a replay of Kelvin van der Linde's pass on the way into turn 4 as Ricardo Feller didn't make life too difficult, as you said, for his teammate coming through, tucked in behind him, and he's now facing that René Rast BMW in the mirrors all over the back of him, and the 2 Audis go through. There's only 7/10 of a second between the 3 of them as they cross the commentary box window, go past the start-finish line and head into turn 1 with van der Linde, Feller and Rast still 8th, 9th and 10th. Nicky Tim has moved ahead of Jack Aitken now on that last lap, which puts him 15th, so on course for the last championship point with Jack back in 16th. And that could realistically be the end of his championship hopes. You never know, and a win tomorrow and a different day tomorrow, and bad luck for other drivers, and it could all change again. But Jack Aitken really 4th in the championship, trying to make up ground, could have done without a bad race, and at the moment he's having a bad race.
Yes, when it rains it pours, as they say, particularly appropriate here. Maro Engel did briefly get it under a second, the gap between 1st and 2nd. Now it went above and now back under again, 0.935 as we ride on board with Thomas Preining, challenging for 12th place on the outside of Clemens Schmid, still struggling for traction with that McLaren, but he gives Preining the squeeze. Preining drops back in behind, just behind them is Franck Pereira as well. There's Nicky Tim in there, Jack Aitken, and out of the points at the moment for Jack Aitken. So really, really tough day for him. So on board with Maro Engel, you can see in the little picture on the left-hand side that it's 1.163. So Mirko Bortolotti is responding and has managed to open up the gap by a 10th or so. So the rate of close has certainly diminished. In fact, it has reversed. We've got less than 8.5 minutes remaining of this race. Mirko Bortolotti holding on. Nicky Tim, his teammate, taking a very unusual line in towards turn 10. Jack Aitken looking to get back into the points. Has a look on the inside, heading up towards turn 1, past the pits. Under braking, Ferrari to the inside. There's Frank Pereira. So Jack Aitken manages to get back up into 15th place. Nicky Tim, the next car ahead of him.
Just doing a quick calculation of the points. There are 81 points up for grabs at the end of this race, with just the 3 qualifying sessions and 3 races to go. And Jack Aitken at the moment is actually going to slip behind Thomas Preining. So Thomas will be up to 4th in the championship on 56 points adrift, though, and 58 points adrift would be Jack Aitken. So a really tall order. It's still mathematically possible. Here we go, side by side. Preining surely the winner of this battle when they get to the breaking point, and he does get up the inside of the McLaren. So Preining now gains another point, up to 12th position for the defending champion, keeping this run of point scoring finishes going despite his difficult qualifying session this morning. The gap has been growing gradually over the last couple of laps between the top 2, so it was just over a second 2 laps ago. It's now back to 1.4 seconds because Bortolotti responded last time around with his personal best lap of the race, 1:30.1 versus a 1:30.4 for Engel, a 1:30.0 for Arjun Maini last time through as well, but he's all on his own in 3rd place. A really good 3rd place, but when you start on pole position, of course you dream of your first win in DTM, and I'm afraid it hasn't quite happened for Arjun, but still an excellent performance.
Meanwhile, in 10th place, René Rast has been the quickest of anybody in Sector 1, so he hasn't given up on moving forwards either. He is 7/10 behind Ricardo Fellow, who's doing a good rear gunner action for Kelvin van der Linde in that 8th place. Kelvin is 4 seconds back from Lucas Auer. We already said, heard on his team radio that it was very much hold station for the rest of the race and bring the points home for 8th place.
Yeah, at the moment, Ricardo Feller, 10th in the championship, would be 81 points behind with 81 points available. So I reckon mathematically it's very, very thin, of course, that it could still happen for Ricardo Feller, but mathematically just about still be in contention. But you have to win all remaining races. And then I think he'd still probably struggle on catback of 2nd and 3rd place finishes. So it is starting to whittle them down to the final few in the championship fight, but these 2 are definitely going to be in the fight at Hockenheim, aren't they? And they could well be the top 2 in the championship, potentially, or at least 1st and 3rd in the championship, with literally a dozen points between the top 3. Kelvin van der Linde looks like 8th place is as good as he can do. He's dropping back now from Lucas Auer. He's 4 seconds behind him, but the good news is that Ricardo Feller is keeping René Rast at bay behind him.
How many laps to go?
No answer. So Arjun Maini asks how long left to go. He had problems with his team radio this morning.
We finish this lap and 5. Finish this and 5.
Yeah, got the abacus out there to work out how many laps were left to go, didn't he, the race engineer? This lap and 5 is the answer. Yeah, he had problems with his team radio this morning, so he had no idea, Arjun, that he got pole position until he got back into the pit lane and found out. It was a nice surprise for him. I said, did you have any idea? Did you know it was a good lap? He said, no idea, because you know the conditions were so changeable. I got no idea whether it was good or not, but it was good, and it was pole position. So at least he can take that away. But Arjun Maini picking up some nice points here, which is going to move him onto 127 points. So we'll move ahead of René Rast, Sheldon van der Linde. Actually, we'll move ahead of Thomas Preining as well at the moment by 2 points. So that would put him up into 4th place in the championship. Highest he's been this season. He was 5th for the first half of the season. Had a couple of bad results, 2 retirements at Nürburgring and Sachsenring, which is why he came into this weekend 9th in the championship. But Arjun Maini into his highest position in the championship. I reckon he'll be up to 4th place in the standings with 3 races to go. So Ricardo Feller looks like he's got the best of René Rast here. René was charging after the 2 Audis earlier on, but he's just slipped back a little bit now, hasn't he?
Yes, doesn't appear to have the legs to get past, or maybe the tyres to get past. Another person whose charge has been somewhat halted is 2nd place Mauro Engel. The gap, well, it's been up to about 1.4 last time around. He has pegged it back a little bit to 1.3, but with 3 3/4 minutes remaining of this race, doesn't look like he's got anything that he can bring to Mirko Bortolotti to take the win of this race. But 2nd place points would be very valuable. There's a Jack Aitken in 15th place. He will get a point, but that will be scant consolation.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Bortolotti on course for a 4th win in what's his 49th race start in the DTM. He's going to have his 50th career start in DTM tomorrow. But race number 49 is going better than planned, I would say, for Mirko Bortolotti. He's leading the race by 1.4 seconds. Look at his first win since the Sachsenring 2023, just over a year ago. Maro Engel in 2nd place. That'll be 5 podiums out of the last 6 races now. That is a phenomenal run of form, isn't it? And he's quietly going about his business. And he might not be getting the race wins, but he's a huge championship contender, isn't he?
And it's the consistency that wins the championships. You discount Maro Engel at your peril. He's always there or thereabout. Another one who often has that title is Lucas Stoltz in 4th place, and he's just holding on, just very quietly getting on about the business. We focused on the 1, 2, 3 as Jack Aitken now challenges Clemens Schmid for 14th place, but Einstein Nguyen, Max Powell, Lucas Auer also there as well in the positions. Kelvin van der Linde, Ricardo Feller, then back to Rene Rast, Sheldon van der Linde, Thomas Preining, Nicky Tim, and then this battle that we're looking at now. Clemens Schmid with Jack Aitken all over him.
Yeah, getting 1 championship point, wanting to double that and get 2 championship points, but also with Font Pereira, you're on board with now, not too far behind in the mirrors, with just over 2 minutes to go, plus 1 lap in this race, round 13 of DTM 2024. Mirko Bortolotti looking to become the 10th different winner of the season. And he is keeping that gap at around about 1.4 seconds now to Maro Engel. Maro in turn is over 6 seconds clear of Arjun Maini, who's on course for his 3rd career DTM podium, running in 3rd place. And then you've got an 11, nearly 12-second gap from 3rd to 4th, which is Lucas Stoltz 4th, Einstein Nguyen 5th, Max Powell having a good race after a pretty tricky first lap. He's come back well, hasn't he? And he's running in 6th place, and that'll be a huge boost for the team. As out wide, coming out down the hill goes the McLaren once again into turn 5, into turn 6. The left-hander, the Ferrari all over the back of the McLaren. Jack Aitken, the British driver, trying to squeeze through, trying to rescue something out of this race and trying to get 14th place. He dives at the inside here. Jack Aitken side by side with Clement Schmid. The Ferrari nose is in front, but he's on the marbles, he's on the wide stuff, and Clement Schmid fends him off for the time being, and now Font Pereira on the run to turn 9 gets a much better, cleaner exit. Onto the tail he goes, into the braking zone of the Ferrari. The Ferrari on the curbs, they both go out wide. This has given a respite to Clement Schmid, and Aitken has to fight hard just to make sure the Lambo stays behind him.
This is a fight just for the last point in the race. Running down the pit straight, flashing the lights like he's close enough. Into turn 1, Clement Schmid looks to have it covered off. 30 seconds of the race remaining as Ricardo Feller receives a black and white flag for track limits on turn 9.
And the cavalry is coming for Clement Schmid because Ben Durr is flying after all 3 of them. He was a second quicker on that previous lap, so look at that second orange and black McLaren in the background, the papaya and black machine of number 25, Ben Durr, having started 9th on the grid. He'd love to at least get a championship point out of this. To do that, though, he's going to have to find a way past Font Pereira and Jack Aitken, with the clock now just ticking down to 0. The race leader coming out of the final turn. So the race leader starts the final lap of the race. There's the board to prove it. And he goes through. The gap is 1.3 seconds back to Maro Engel. So Mirko Bortolotti on course for a huge victory here at the Red Bull Ring.
Rene Rast still continuing to set purples in Sector 1, but he's a bit late in the race now to close it in for a point from Ricardo Feller. But our race leader heading up to turn 3 for the very last time, Mirko Bortolotti, fending off the challenge from Maro Engel. Doesn't look like he's got anything that he can do about the race leader. There's Arjun Maini. He had a fairly lonely race in 3rd place. He's been running on his own for much of the second half of the race. But into this final lap, and Mirko Bortolotti looking for that first race win.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on Rene Rast as well. He's a bit closer to the tail of Ricardo Feller, as went past the commentary box window. Is Ben Durr caught up to Font Pereira yet? Getting there, but not quite yet. Yes, here is Rene Rast. I thought he was closer. He's closer. He's alongside, and he's about to split the Audis and get himself up to 9th place here. So we'll go through Willie. He goes wide now into turn 3. The number 7 Audi of Feller comes back up the inside of him, but he is through and he's up to 9th place. But that should give a gap now to Kelvin van der Linde, with the race leader about to go into the penultimate turn of the lap. Here he is, Mirko Bortolotti, about to move into the championship lead with his first win in over a year in the DTM. The Lamborghini driver heads for the line. The Italian, a winner once again in the DTM. He takes victory at the Red Bull Ring.
Yes, mate, it's a win. You are my hero, Mirko.
Fantastic effort from him, from Maro Engel with another podium in second, and Arjun Maini crosses the line in third to get his third DTM podium.
Mirko, bring pickup. Bring as much pickup as you can. Bring as much pickup as you can, please.
Make sure that car is over the minimum weight limit is the translation of that. Get all the rubber you can on those tyres. Well done, Mirko Bortolotti. That will feel like a real bonus. Look at this, Jack Aitken not giving up until the absolute death here, until the last corner or the last lap of the race. Down the inside he goes, and that puts Clement Schmidt back down to 15th place. He'll get a point, but it is through and over the line for Jack Aitken, the Ferrari driver, battling, even if it's only for 14th, with 100%. So he'll get 2 championship points, but he'll drop out of 4th place in the standings. From Pereira had Ben Durr all over the back of him over the start-finish line as well. But at SSR Performance, you can see just what that victory means. Mirko Bortolotti's 49th career start in the DTM, his 4th win, his 17th podium. He's picking up tyres, he's picking up mud and grass as well as he slows down on the slowing down lap with 2 wheels on the grass here at Mirko Bortolotti. A fighting performance, one which I don't think he expected. He thought the performance of the car in the dry was going to be nowhere near good enough to win a race. But that little shower about 45 minutes before the race started might just have put things completely on its head here in the championship.
Fantastic stuff. Kelvin van der Linde from 18th on the grid made it up to 8th place. I would say that was very good damage limitation for the driver that was leading the championship coming into this race. But it's all change, may well be all change again tomorrow, as Mirko Bortolotti making sure he has plenty of pickup on those tyres.
Yeah, and another super consistent performance from Maro Engel as well. As I say, it's 5 podiums from the last 6 races now. It's his 10th podium in the DTM, Maro Engel, and he is absolutely in this championship fight as well. So provisionally, subject to confirmation of all the results, it will be 188 points for Bortolotti, 178 for van der Linde, and third on 176 Maro Engel. But rather than being 15 points behind as he was at the start of the day, he's only going to be 12 points off the championship lead. But a great victory for the SSR Performance team here. The flag coming out first for Mirko Bortolotti. Chair hoisted aloft like a Roman king, a Roman emperor here, was the race engineer down at SSR Performance. A great team effort, and one of those days that can go very badly wrong very quickly when you've got the rain coming in qualifying and then going, and greasy conditions at the start of the race. It has a potential to be a recipe for disaster. So to get through it with a win is a massive bonus. And Maro Engel, thumbs up, he's pleased at 2nd place. And I know he'll be slightly disappointed with 3rd, but still an excellent drive from Arjun Maini to come home in 3rd place. And Clement Schmidt stopped out on track by the looks of it, so he's not made it home, which is a worry. Crossed the line in 15th place, but he hasn't made it home. You've got to get back home and make sure you get weighed as well. We've had lots of drivers disqualified this year, even when they've retired from the race, because they haven't got back and been weighed with the car. So Durr, after all that work, will want to make sure they get that championship point for Clement Schmidt. But here he comes, Bortolotti. He's certainly had a very slowing down lap, hasn't he? He'll get out of the car now, looking very sensible. He's left himself room to get out, which most drivers forget to do when they come into victory lane. So that gets the Italian first win of 2024, opens his arms, clenches his fists, and of course gets onto the roof of the Lamborghini, the Italian victorious here in Austria. And you can see just what it means to him, Brian.
Yes, that's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And the team worked so hard to prepare that car. We had a feeling the win was going to come at some point this year, but also the consistency takes him to the top of the points, so double celebration with 3 races to go. Onto the scales, not because he's watching his weight, but because all weights are taken into account, car including the driver. But Maro Engel doesn't look too disappointed with that 2nd place, certainly keeps him well in the championship hunt.
Yeah, the big turnaround for Maro Engel and the team has been qualifying, really. It was a struggle at the start of the year for Maro Engel to qualify in Windward Racing. So only once in the first 6 qualifying sessions did he qualify in the top 10. But he was, as low as he had 3, where he was 17th, 18th and 19th. But they found something, and it's been good since then. Only once in the last 7 qualifying sessions has he been out of the top 6. So that's really helped. And what also helped was some great drives in that first part of the season where he didn't qualify well. He fought his way through very well indeed, Maro Engel. So hugely experienced driver, of course. Nobody should be surprised that he's fighting for the championship with all the success he's had in GT racing over the years. The Nürburgring 24-hour race winner, an absolute star at the Macau Grand Prix, and multiple winner of the GT races there at the end of each season. So it should be no surprise that Maro Engel is fighting for the championship, and he and the Windward team are just quietly going about their business. And that's another great result for him, because he's been in the points in every race this season, and he's picked up now another podium finish. That is podium number 7 of the season. Arjun Maini, with a quiet smile on his face, he would have wanted to win, of course, from pole position. It's the only thing you want to do from pole is get the win. But nonetheless, a podium finish. An excellent job by him and Hubert Haupt's team. Confirmation then of the results after what was 38 laps of racing. Mirko Bortolotti wins by 1.1 seconds from Maro Engel and Arjun Maini. Lukas Stoltz 4th. Anjan Nguyen, nice good result for him in 5th place. Max Powell, excellent result, best for the team this year in their first year in DTM. 6th place ahead of Lucas Auer. Kelvin van der Linde, a battling performance to 8th. René Rast 9th. Ricardo Feller in 10th place. And then in 11th, Sheldon van der Linde. Another point-scoring finish for Thomas Preining in 12th, with Nicky Tim, Jack Aitken and Clement Schmidt rounding out the points positions in 13th, 14th and 15th. So those are the results from the race. Let's get some reaction now with Verena.
And I've got the winner here, 6th time on the podium, and now finally he's got his victory, he's got his win, and that also means that he is the championship leader. He's got Kelvin van der Linde 10 points behind you, so finally your victory, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I've really, no words, I've been dreaming of this for a long time, especially win at my home race. You know, with against all odds, basically, so it means a lot. It really means a lot. The perfect race today.
Coming from P4 to victory, that makes it even more special. You fought really hard.
Yeah, we won this race in the first stint in the wet with a perfect strategy, perfect setup choice that gave me the chance to open a gap, and then I just tried with a quali stint to bring it home, and luckily it was enough, but Maro was super fast.
But you did it. Congratulations. Enjoy the champagne up there. And now back to you.
Thanks very much, Farini. And Mirko Bortolotti, your 10th different winner then of the season. Jack Aitkins won 3, Kelvin van der Linde's won 2. And now we've had 1 win each for Sheldon van der Linde, René Rast, Marco Wittmann, Thomas Preining, Luca Engstler, Nicky Tim, Lukas Stoltz, and now Mirko Bortolotti. 3rd place to Arjun Maini, 2nd place on the super slow-mo then to Maro Engel. But the win and the spoils going the way of Mirko Bortolotti. 25 huge championship points that put the Italian, the SSR Performance team, into the lead of the Drivers' Championship standings. We had 12 winners last year. Mirko Bortolotti won 3 times last year, but didn't win the championship. That's his only win of the season, but he takes the title, he'll absolutely be delighted. That's all that matters. Who wins the championship, not who wins the most races. But 12 winners last year, and we could well match that, maybe even beat it if we get 3 more different winners. And last year was the 2nd most number of different winners we had in the history of DTM, so it shows just how competitive it has been once again. The Bortolotti, who's been close to the championship because he was the runner-up in the championship last year, went into the finale at Hockenheim with a big chance to win the championship. It didn't go his way when Thomas Preining dominated and got pole position in both races and won both races. So he had to settle for 2nd. He was 4th in 2022, but he spent much of the first part of the season as the championship leader and battling for the title. Can he do it this time around? Good to see there Max Powell as well, Brian, quietly going about a 6th place finish, which was excellent for one of the smallest teams out there.
Yes, getting on with the job, really. There's Luca Engstler also walking back to the pits. Not such a great day for him. That was an 18th place for him. But with 3 races remaining this season, tomorrow, the forecast is indicating, heaven forbid, it might be dry. Well, who knows? It could be a very different ball game.
So confirmation of the points. We know about the top 3. Lucas Stoltz up to 4th, having been 6th in the last 2 championship years. 127 points for him, with Thomas Preining remaining in 5th place in the standings, and Jack Aitken slipping back to 6th place despite that last corner overtake to get himself a couple of points for 14th position in the race. Time in a moment then for the podium presentations. And see up on the raised podium, almost directly opposite the commentary box, that Tommy Shimon, who looks after the podium ceremonies, is calling out our first driver, and it will be Arjun Maini to step onto the podium for the 2nd time this year, the 3rd time in his DTM career. 3rd place for the driver that started from pole. Mauro Engel with his 10th career podium in the DTM, waves to the team and the crowd below, a wry smile on his face. He keeps on doing what he needs to keep on doing here. But the winner and 25 points and the championship lead to this man, sprinting down the steps onto the podium, punching the air, the fighter, Mirko Bortolotti. Today is his day. He takes to the top step of the podium, and it's a win for the SSR Performance Squad. Their 2nd win this season for the team after Nicky Tim got his victory, memorable victory at the Norris Ring. They're fighting for the team's championship as well. But now it's time for the Italian national anthem. The Italian national anthem plays. An emotional Mirko Bortolotti punches the air. There'll be the podium presentation of the trophies next, and then I'm sure he's going to be letting rip with the champagne because he is absolutely pumped with that victory. Dr. Gern Enser from the ADAC, the president of the organisation that runs these events, the DTM, presents that fantastic Bull Trophy to the race winner, Mirko Bortolotti. He hoists it aloft. He's your winner for round number 13 of the championship. And then the 2nd place trophy, equally smart, presented to Mauro Engel, who's very happy with that. Of course, he'd like a win, but if he just keeps finishing 2nd and 3rd and takes the championship, who cares? And he's right up there, 3rd in the championship, only a dozen points off the championship lead now. Marcus Auer is going to present the 3rd place trophy now to Arjun Maini. An excellent day. Dreamt of the win, didn't quite come his way in the end, but pole position and a 3rd place and a very good day at the office. And from BWT sponsors, Anna Gruber presents the trophy to the winning team, SSR Performance, 4th in the championship and the team's championship coming into today. But the team's championship leaders, Schubert, not having the best of days today. So that is all going to tighten up with 3 races to go as well. And then the drivers and the team representative from SSR all pose on the top of the podium for photos, and they wait and they wait and they wait, and then itching to go put the trophies down and grab the champagne bottles are our top 3. In fact, not yet. I've got to do one more photo. Calm before the storm, this, and then it's about to kick off. They're applauded politely. One more smile for the cameras down below. Now it's time to put the trophies down, and it's time to open the champagne. And there you go, the celebrations on the podium for the first race of the weekend here at the Red Bull Ring. And with the biggest smile on his face of all is Mirko Bortolotti. A massive victory, and one which he probably didn't predict happening at the start of the day. An excellent job by him, by Mauro Engel, and by Arjun Maini. But Kelvin van der Linde keeps the championship fight going with a gutsy drive from near the back of the field to finish in 8th place. So down on the podium, the drivers celebrating. We can probably hear from them now, and we can catch up with Verena Reed.
And I'm here with Mauro Engel. Congratulations, a fantastic 2nd place. I mean, you had a superb start and you were pushing so hard, breathing down Mirko's back. In the end, it's 2nd place, but are you happy with that?
Yeah, for sure. It's a strong result, and big thanks to the team. They gave me a fantastic car, good strategy, good pit stop, and in the end we paid a little bit for too high tire pressures at the beginning, and and that's where we lost the gap to Mirko. But congrats to them, and still a good day for us, and tomorrow's another day.
Absolutely, and it's your 7th time on the podium, and also you're picking up the points. I mean, you're 3rd in the championship, only 12 points behind Mirko, so that means, I mean, you're fighting for it.
Yeah, for sure, we're pushing. You know, I mean, it's a good fight. I'm sure it'll go on for the remaining 3 races, but we're pushing. We want to be at the front.
Absolutely. Looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you very much, Maro. I'm going to have a look where Arjun is. Yeah, I need Arjun, so we're going to find Arjun. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, good to see Maro Engel. Pleased with what was another really good performance from the hugely likeable German driver. So wait for a reaction from Arjun Maini. Qualifying coming up tomorrow morning, slightly later than today, at 9:45 is going to be huge as well. As I mentioned earlier on in the day during the qualifying session, Mirko Bortolotti has managed to pick up 14 championship points from qualifying today. If he picks up any more, it's going to be the equivalent of a podium finish. You get 16 points for a 3rd place finish. So if he gets a couple more points in the qualifying sessions remaining, that will be the equivalent of a podium. So I hope you enjoyed the race today. From Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley, that's it from the commentary box. Let's go back down to Verena on the podium.
And I'm here with Arjun Maini. Congratulations, a 3rd place. Unfortunately, from pole position to 3rd, you were fighting hard, but still, it's on the podium. It's your 2nd time on the podium, and tomorrow's another day, right? So maybe tomorrow's going to be even better.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can never complain when you have a DTM podium, but it's just a little bit bittersweet because starting from pole, of course, you want to win. But unfortunately, we just missed way too much pace on the first run. I mean, I was lucky I held up even 3rd. But, I mean, it is what it is. The 2nd run was quite good, but we have some work to do today, and I hope it's dry tomorrow. Well, let's see what it is.
I think it's supposed to be dry tomorrow, so tomorrow you're going to give it even more.
Yeah, especially if it's a bit warmer.
All right, yeah, I'm hoping for that too. I'm freezing too. All right, thank you so much. And yeah, that was race day 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. And now, of course, we're looking forward to tomorrow. I don't think it's going to get warmer, but it's going to stay dry. That's at least what the predictions are. Let's hope that's what it's going to be. Looking forward to tomorrow's race. And now here are the highlights. Enjoy. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.